Migrating to Australia, Good May. Published by Gerak Budaya Enterprise. Table of Contents. Chapter 1, Is the Western Culture Better for You? Chapter 2, Land of Opportunities. Chapter 3, Starting a Business in Australia. Chapter 4, Customer Service, Australian Style. Number 5, Choosing the Right Suburb. Chapter 6, Rust Belt Schools in Australia. Chapter 7, Schoolyard Bullying. Chapter 8, How Good is an Australian Education for Your Child? Chapter 9, Assimilating into Racist Australia. Chapter 10, Tips for Succeeding in Australia Career-Wise. Chapter 11, The Welfare State and You. Chapter 12, Migrate for What? This book is dedicated to our late grandmother, Madam Soong. Acknowledgement. This book would have been possible without the support of many people, and we wish to express our gratitude to them. Many thanks to Gerak Budaya team that include Shirley, Lok, Mr. Lok, Park Chong, and everyone else that is involved in this project. Most importantly, we also like to say a big thank you to all our friends. Although we do not mention some names here, you know who you are, and we want to thank you for all your lifelong friendships. And Preface. Books on migrating abound, so are books on working and living in Australia. Most of them serve one of two purposes. They are an all-round directory with facts and information, and where you do not have the particular facts, they will direct you to sources that have them. Or they taught some kind of migratory salvation, rightly or wrongly, giving an impression of rosiness about the country in point, as if all the problems in the world will go away when you migrate. This is not to say these books are not meeting the needs of the readers. In fact, even decadal migrants like us will still find some of these books highly informative and helpful. There is, however, one underlying problem with these books. They are not written by Malaysians for Malaysians. In most cases, they are written by American or British authors. Any description of good and bad is relative. So what is good for Americans might not be the same for Malaysians. Even a bad Australian experience for an American or a British migrant could be starkly different from one for a Malaysian. For example, Australians who dislike Americans do so because they think that all Americans are arrogant or ignorant, whereas Australians who dislike Malaysians might mistakenly think that the latter are ignorant or inferior to them. Another reason for writing this book is that in the general discourse among Malaysians, whether in Malaysia or in Australia, the latter, which is Australia, is perceived to present more equal opportunities. It is also considered to be more advanced, liberal, democratic, laissez-faire, and if you like, better than Malaysia in any way and every respect. Voices to the contrary from the meager minority are drowned out or fall on deaf ears. How do we know? Well, you look at the droves of Malaysians emigrating every year to countries like the UK, the USA, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, as if any of these countries has more to offer, so long as English is spoken there. This book, of course, is looking at one of them, which is Australia. Is Australia all rosy, nice, and dainty? Well, the short answer is yes and no. The long answer isn't too long either. As you can see, this is not a thick book at all. While this book is not some sort of one-size-fits-all instruction manual of migrating and living in Australia, although it does at least attempt to offer some useful practical pointers, we do believe it contains some noteworthy discussions and anecdotal accounts that shed light on the dilemmas, ironies, opportunities, challenges, hopes, despair, frustration, excitements, and other emotions or adjectives that we can't think of at the moment of a migrant in Australia. To see the other side of the moon, we must land on it to find out. Earth-based human beings, no matter how state-of-the-art our telescopes are, will only get to see that one side of the moon. Is there another side of Australia? You bet your life there is. Introduction. So what is Australia's image to the world? Some less well-traveled Europeans or Americans might visualize it as the outback home of a Crocodile Dundee or Steve Irwin character. But for most Malaysians or Southeast Asians, Australia enjoys a rather positive image, where words like democratic, politically stable and transparent, environmentally clean, humanitarian, egalitarian, sunny, are the common adjectives used to describe Australia. This book, however, invites its readers to think more critically about Australia. If any readers, after reading this book, come away thinking that the authors are heavily biased against Australia, then the authors have not done a decent enough job. As our aim here is to help our readers form a more balanced view of Australia. No good decisions can be made without enough information. Hopefully, this book will be able to contribute its bit of information to help readers make a better decision. In Chapter 1, we discuss whether Western culture is more suitable for Malaysians or not. It shows that our impression of Western or Australian cultures gathered from interactions with Australians or Westerners in Malaysia may not be accurate, for these are the relatively well-traveled, open-minded, culturally sensitive Australians compared to the average less well-traveled Australians back in the big island continent. The migrant by nature are instinctively opportunity-seeking animals. That's why they migrated in the first place. It's always exciting to explore new openings in unknown places. And this is what Chapter 2 talks about, land of opportunities. Chapter 3, starting a business in Australia, provides some interesting stories of how enterprising migrants were able to spot great opportunities that others did not see coming. Hopefully, we can learn a lesson or two from them. Chapter 4, customer service, Australian style, offers insightful accounts of the true state of the quality of customer service in Australian businesses, which is appalling. Surely, we can do better than some of these Australian service providers. This chapter could be your source of ideas as to what business you can start in Australia. Chapter 5, choosing the right suburb. It gives a few tips to the new migrants, Malaysians in particular, in choosing a decent, livable, suitable location. For example, Malaysian migrants who are Muslims might find places like Preston, Broadmeadows, Brunswick very convenient because of easy access to mosques and halal meat. Chapter 6, 7, and 8 touch on issues of schooling and education in Australia. What are the practical challenges for our children? Is schoolyard bullying a serious problem in Australian schools? Read on to find out. Chapter 9 deals with the subject of assimilation of migrants into mainstream Australia. Can first-generation migrants really assimilate? Hopefully, real accounts of migrants' experiences in this respect will shed some light on this question. End of the day, the very reason migrants come to Australia is to become successful. Success, of course, is a very subjective term, if not an illusory word, as it takes on different meanings for different people. But we offer some suggestions on how a migrant can become quote-unquote successful career-wise in Chapter 10. Chapter 11 talks about the welfare state and what it means to the new migrant. Besides informing our readers what sort of welfare payments are given out to Australian residents, we also examine how the welfare systems can also be unfair to the Australian taxpayers. Chapter 12 invites you to rethink your migration plan. Sometimes the question is not whether you are eligible to migrate. Rather, the more important question is, must you migrate to find success? If you think you are now living in a frying pan, make sure you do not jump into a brewing pot, whose water may be lukewarm now, only to find out later that it is heating up by the minute. We are not in any way trying to influence your thinking here, but this book serves only as an invitation to think more critically before you make that big jump, before you take the big leap, a life-changing and impactful decision of emigrating from Malaysia and immigrating to Australia. For better or for worse, the migration decision is an irreversible one in the sense that nothing will ever be the same again, even if you would change course later down the track. Thank you.